Good morning, Michael and Anna. It is Monday, October 21st. Today, you're going to hear all about my weekend. Aren't you lucky? 7 years ago, while I was on my mission in the Philippines, I baptized a 14-year-old girl with her family. And about a month ago, she moved here to Utah to be with her lovely fiance who lives in St. George. And they were to be married on Saturday, this past Saturday. And I was supposed to go there. Now, St. George is about 4 hours away from Provo, and so I thought, you know what? If I'm driving, I might as well get my oil changed so I don't kill my car, since, I just replaced the engine in it last summer, a year ago summer. And so I didn't want to ruin the engine again, so I decided, an oil change is probably for the best. To make a long story short, I took my car in to get the oil changed, and they came out and said, your car needs a lot more than just an oil change. Something about the head gasket leaking oil into the coolant, I don't know. Stuff like that. Anyway, my car is not highway worthy anymore, and so I had to text Angie and say, hey, I might not be able to make it to your wedding because my car's dead. But she took things into her own hands. She called some people that were coming from here or north of here to go down to St. George, and unfortunately, everybody she called didn't have room for me in their car, except for the very last person. The very last person she called, they had room for me, and so on Friday night at about 11:30, we left Provo. Me, along with 3 other random people who I've never met before in my life, driving down to St. George, and I was cramped, to tell you the truth. It was very uncomfortable in the backseat of that car. I'm a very big person, and it's a very small car, and halfway down there, my knees were saying, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. All I could do was apologize to my knees, take out my cell phone, and watch a live stream of New Zealand and Australia rugby. Yeah, so that's essentially what I did for most of the trip, besides kind of pass out a little bit. So we got to St. George, it was 3:30 in the morning, so we went to stay at Angie and Ron's mom's place where they were all at. I took my spot on the couch, fell asleep for a couple of hours, woke up to the sound of Tagalog, and I thought, what is happening? This is the weirdest thing ever, because I wasn't used to people speaking Tagalog. In the morning. I haven't been woken up to that in about, 7 years. Anyway, we got ready, went to the wedding, and I was actually a witness at the wedding, which was awesome. I got to sign the marriage certificate. And Angie was pretty happy about that, pretty excited. She said, you signed my marriage certificate and you signed my baptism certificate. I think the only thing left now is to sign her death certificate. Anyway, after that, we went outside, took some pictures. Gosh, I hate pictures. And then after that, since we had 5 hours left before the reception started, my ride, the people I was with, all 3 of them, plus 2 others that we kind of picked up on the way that knew them that I didn't know, and so I was like the 6th wheel, this massive 6th wheel, which is really awkward in a place where you don't know anybody. They decided to go to lunch, and so I decided to go to lunch with them because, hey, what else could I do? So I went to lunch with them. After lunch, we went straight back to the host's house where they watched football, and I read some Earth of Fire, the second book in the prequel of Ender's Game, as well as watching an episode of Doctor Who. So my ride, they weren't supposed to leave until Sunday afternoon, and I'm thinking, I really don't want to wait that long with people I don't know, and they probably really don't want me around either. So I was on Facebook on my phone, and I saw that one of my friends was in Vegas. And so I decided, this might work. So I texted him and I asked him, hey, I see you're in Vegas because I creeped on your Facebook. And are you coming up through St. George later tonight? Because I would love to leave here, and do you have room for me? As it turns out, yes, they were passing through St. George that night, but they were going to be passing through between 5 and 6 o'clock. That would have been great, except the reception started at 5 o'clock, and so I told them, you know what, I kind of have to be at the reception because since Angie's family is all in the Philippines, she's asked me to be her stand-in father and dance with her during the bride and father dance. Which, by the way, is a real honor. If you haven't ever been asked to do that, it's kind of awesome. Anyway, they said that they could leave around 6:30 and that'd be fine, but no later. And I thought, you know what? It should be fine. The dancing should be over by then. That's cool. I'm down with that. Yeah, let's do that. Unfortunately, I've forgotten about a couple things. 1, they're Filipino, and they run on Filipino Standard Time. 2, they're Mormons and run on Mormon Standard Time. 3, this is Utah, and it's Utah Standard Time. That's a triple whammy. If you've ever been part of a triple whammy like that, you know it's not a good thing. So the reception didn't actually start until 5:45. And I'm thinking, they're going to be here and they're going to have to wait and they're going to hate me forever. Another important part about the reception was that Angie's family was there. Although not in person, they were there via Skype on this big TV that they had set up. And so they were watching the whole thing from the Philippines, which was kind of awesome. But we got the food, we got eating and everything, and the MC, who was Filipino, he decided to come over and embarrass me. He said, hey everybody, this is the guy, Ben Coker, who baptized Angie. Please stand up. I'm thinking, why do you want me to stand up? I don't want people to be like, oh, look at him, he's all awesome, which I am, by the way. But I don't want people to think that. It's not my turn. So I stood up, waved, did my thing, and sat back down. Then he came back around a little bit later while we were eating and said, now these 5 people at the table here served in the Philippines. Now, What foods do you miss most? And then he went around the table asking people what foods they missed the most. People said adobo and Beagle Express. By the time it got to me, everything that I was going to say was already taken, so of course I had to say balut. Now, if you don't know what balut is, it looks just like an egg. A very harmless egg, but when you open it up, there's a little guy inside just kind of staring at you. There's a little fetal duck, fetal chicken or something like that. And you just eat the guy. It's actually really good. It kind of it tastes like crunchy egg is what it tastes like, but sometimes you can taste the feathers. And the beak, and then the little bones. At about 6:25, we were just finishing our meal, and I was thinking, okay, the people who are going to give me a ride aren't here yet, and they're going to be here, and they're going to be upset, and they're not going to want to wait, and they're not going to wait, and I'm going to be stuck here till Sunday. However, there was a guy, some random guy who happened to show up at our table and sit down. He knew everyone else. I didn't know him. But apparently he was leaving for Provo that night after the reception. And so I asked him, hey, can I possibly bum a ride with you up north? And so he said, yeah, I would love to give you a ride. That would be fantastic. Let's leave at 7. I said, 7 sounds great as long as that's after the dancing part, because I have to dance with Angie as her father. Anyway, moving on. The food was really good, but then there was the dance part. And so Angie and Ron, they were dancing with each other, bride and groom. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, the MC comes up to me and he says, okay, Ben, it's your turn to go into the middle. Tap Ron on the shoulder and cut in and dance with Angie. I looked at them and I'm like, really? Right now? This is the time you want me to do that? It doesn't seem like it's the right time to do that. He thought it was fine and he's like, yeah, just do it right now. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just following the MC's direction. So there I go, walking into the middle of the dance floor where there's only them two, Angie and Ron. Everyone else is looking at them. I put my hand on Ron's shoulder and say, Ron, I'm supposed to cut in and dance with Angie now. They look at me like, who are you and why are you here? Angie just said, mamaya na lang, which means just do it later. So they were quite happy dancing with each other. And so I went and sat back down and said to the MC, they don't want to be interrupted right now. And after about another 4 or 5 minutes, they looked at the MC looked at me, they all nodded and everything. So I was all, okay. There I go again, back up. I tap Ron on the shoulder and say, excuse me, sir, may I cut in? So I cut in and I danced with Angie. And it was probably like one of the most tenderest moments of my life. She was really happy that I was able to be there and dance with her instead of her father. When I was dancing with Angie, it was just one of those things that just, touches your heart a little bit. Because her dad's over in the Philippines watching through Skype as I'm doing what he should be doing. And it was kind of fun, and it's kind of sweet and tender and everything. And yeah. Then after the dance ended, I said goodbye and I left. We didn't actually leave St. George until 8 o'clock at night. So it's a really good thing I found that other ride, or else I would have been stuck there in St. George with random people for that night and the next day, and they really didn't want me there. Anyway, that was kind of a long story, and usually I like to keep to a 4-minute limit, but I thought, you know what, this was a big wedding ordeal thing. I'm going to tell you all about it, and so you get to have this longer than 4-minute story video about the wedding I went to. But yeah, it was an awesome wedding. I loved it. It was great. The commuting part wasn't necessarily my favorite, but just being at the temple with somebody that I baptized and being able to watch her get sealed to the love of her life was a really awesome thing. And I'm just really grateful I was able to be there. And if you ever get that opportunity to, be at a wedding where somebody you baptized that's a great thing. Or, be at your own wedding. I'm sure that would be great too. I'm sure it'll happen one day. Don't you worry, guys. But yeah, tender all around. That's it for me. I'm going to head out now. You guys have a wonderful day. Yeah.